So welcome back to the class of basic concepts of macroeconomics. Part 1 we have already done. We are going on to part 2 today. In the sense, the chapter it has lot many concepts, and for the sake of clarity, I divided the PowerPoint into two parts. We have finished till depreciation. We now know various types of goods, depreciation, consumption of fixed capital, investment. These concepts have been done in part 1. Now part 2 goes in to the basic concepts of stock and flow to begin with. So sometimes when you talk about the concept of stock and flow, sometimes water in a tank. If I go into an example from our daily lives, so water in a tank, the stock of water in the tank, and the moment you leave the tap open, it flows out. So water in one place when it was in the tank was a stock concept, and the same water when it comes out of the tap becomes a flow concept. So basically, stock refers to the value of a variable at a given point of time, at a particular point of time, while flow refers to the value of any variable over a period of time. If there is a question asked, identify whether it is a stock concept or a flow concept, your answer should always be that this is a stock. If at all it is a, you identify it as a stock because it refers to the value at a point of time, or if you identify it as a flow concept, then the reason should be that it talks about a period of time. So the keywords for the difference between stock and flow is a particular point of time or over a period of time. And hence, because stock is at a point of time, it is not time dimensional, whereas flow being over a period of time is time dimensional. A particular time is there. Both impact each other. Stock impacts the flow, flow impacts the stock. Say for example, if in an economy the stock of wealth is more, it would mean that for investment there will be more money available, and if there is more investment, the flow of goods and services will be more. Similarly, if more income flows in the economy, it means more people can save. It means more will be the stock of wealth in the economy. So the concepts of labor force, concepts of population of a country, concept of grains stored in a godown, they are all examples of stock, while income of a person or the money that you spend or the birth rates, the number of births, sale of food grain or any other commodity, they are all flow concepts. So I hope the concept of stock and flow is clear, which is another basic concept. The next concept that we discuss is very important, because in macroeconomics, because the entire economy is so vast that if you want to study it, you have to divide it into certain sectors, and every economy from macro point of view is divided into 4 sectors. The simplest of the economy, which is usually the 2-sector economy, it has got 2 sectors, household sector and producer sector. Now what is the household sector? Household sector is also known as the consumer sector. It includes consumers of goods and services and all those who own the factors of production. If you remember, factors of production are land, labor, capital and enterprise. So you and me, who are the owners of these factors of production, we form a part of household sector. Number 2 is the producer sector. As the name suggests, all producing units, or in simple language you call them as firms or industries in the economy, they are all the part of producer sector. So all these producing units indulge in the production of goods and services. They use the factors of production for the production of goods and services. Now, who owns the factor of production? You and me, that is, we in the household sector own the factors of production, and people in the producer sector ask for land, labor, capital and entrepreneurial skill from us. They need it so that they can produce goods and service. So these two are the simple two sector economy. Now if we talk about, we know that it is not only household and producer, the government plays a huge role in the running of the economy. So if you talk about a three sector economy, government sector plays its role. So government sector plays its role as a welfare agency for the welfare of the people, or it plays its role even as a producer. Like any other producer, government is a producer, public sector. So government works there as a producer. It wants to earn profits. It indulges into the hardcore business. So then again, it is another sector in the economy, and definitely the most important thing in today's world and for years and years altogether has been the external sector, that is the trading sector. Which trading? Foreign trade. And I say external sector, it means our trade with the rest of the world, with the other countries of the world. And hence it is also known as, the external sector is also known as the rest of the world sector. All such activities which are related to the import and export of goods and services from our economy to the other countries of the world is the external sector. So sometimes we call it a four sector economy. So if you find all these sectors, it's a four sector economy. If you talk about the first three, it's a three sector economy. If you talk about household and producer, it is the basic, the two sector economy. These are the most important four sectors from the macro point of view. Now each sector of the economy depends on the other, and because one sector depends on the other, it is also known as intersectoral dependence. As I said, producer is dependent upon the household sector. Similarly, the household sector is dependent on the producers. How come? Because producers will produce goods and services for whom? For you and me. And who are we? In which sector are we? We are in the household sector. So there is interdependence between the sectors. Now when this interdependence takes place, or when this give and take takes place in the form of money, it's called as money flow. And if it takes place in the form of goods and services, it is called real flow. So these are called intersectoral or intersectional flows between the two sections or the two sectors of the economy. It talks about money flows and real flows. This you can very easily see in the form of this flow chart. Mark the arrows. Mark the arrows. What is flowing from which sector to which? So it is a two sector economy because it is the basic economy. We are taking the example. Now you see land, labor, capital and entrepreneurs are moving from household to the producers. Do you see the arrow moving from household to producers? Now what does the household give to the producers? The factor services, either land or labor or capital or entrepreneurial services. Household producer sector makes use of this, and then it produces goods and services which go from, check the flowchart again, it goes from producer sector to the household sector. What goes from producer sector to the household sector? The goods produced by the firms. So these factor services from household to producer, and then goods and services from firms to household sector, this flow is called as the real flow. On the other hand, you have money flows. As the term suggests, money is flowing between household sector and firms. Now, how does money flow? Now, in the real flow, you saw that factor services are moving. So, when factor services move from household to firms, it's not given free of cost. Firms have to pay them. If land services are given, then rent is to be paid. If labor gives its services, then wages are to be paid. If capital is given, then interest is to be paid. If entrepreneurial services are given, then profit is to be paid. So producer has to pay to the household for whatever it takes from them. Similarly, when firms produce goods and services to household, it doesn't give them free of cost. household, we have to pay, isn't it? You and me have to pay for goods and services. So household sector has to pay for goods and services which the producer sector gives to them. So money flow in the form of payment for factor services from household to producers, and in the form of expenditure on purchase of goods and services from producers to households. In the next slide, you will see this circular flow of income. We have already seen real flow and money flow moving from one sector to the other, either in the form of goods and services or in the form of money. So it's refers to therefore an unending flow of activities of production, income generation and expenditure in various sectors of the economy. This is called as circular flow. It may take place in three phases. One, production of goods and services. When goods and services are produced by factors of production, they get paid, so it generates income. When factors of production get income, they spend on goods and services, so it causes expenditure. And when expenditure is done, definitely something is demanded. When you and when we are anybody in the economy, when we spend something, it means you are spending on a good and services, on some good or some service. That means you are demanding that good and service. When those goods and services are being demanded, that means expenditure once again takes place. Or when expenditure takes place, it causes production causes income again causes expenditure causes demand. So it is an unending flow of activities of production, income generation and expenditure. And because there is no beginning or no end, there is a circularity to it, hence it is called as circular flow. You can already see in the diagram very clearly the three phases of circular flow are given. Considering these three phases together, which three phases? The phase of production, the phase of income generation and the phase of expenditure. When we consider them together, suppose we take a two-sector economy, you can take a three-sector economy, you can take a four-sector economy. Why do I talk about a two-sector economy? Because the two-sector economy is the most basic form of economy. So in order to explain it clearly, I have taken this. So you will find whatever is being produced is generating income, and whenever income is being generated, it is causing some kind of expenditure. Now this therefore is called as triple identity. So the circular flow model therefore shows you not only sale of goods and services, it shows you not only factor payments, it shows you not only expenditure on goods and services, it also shows you sale of factor services. So the circular flow model will show both real flow as well as money flow. To end this chapter, I would like to talk about certain assumptions of the circular flow model and some significance of this model. By now you very well know in your class 11th also microeconomics that economic theories are based on certain assumptions. They are based on certain assumptions because the economy has very many variables taking place, very many variables which play their role. And if a particular theory has to hold good for the majority, assumptions have to be there. So in the circular flow model, if we are talking about a two-sector economy, then of course if there are households and producers, households spend their entire income, there are no exports and imports, government does not play any role in the domestic economy in a two-sector model. If it is a three-sector model, then government will play its role. but these are the assumptions on which the two sector circular flow model is based. And the most important significance of the circular flow model is that it facilitates the estimation of national income. You can find out how much is the national income. How can you find out? Because of the triple identity. Whatever has been produced, income is being created. Whatever income is being created, because everything is being spent, nothing is being sold, there is expenditure, and because there is expenditure there is demand, and because there is demand there is production. So you can know what is the GDP, or you can know what is the national income, and hence, as you have already seen, it helps in understanding how different sectors of the economy are related to each other, are interdependent, are dependent on each other. With this, we finish off with the second chapter in this particular unit, which talks about some very important basic concepts in the macroeconomic concepts.